As Sheikh mentioned to say something, but I didn't really explain it, so my apologies. But as you can see, it's a very simple website with all the tabs on the top, and I will forward it to Sheikh to explain further on the categories.
Do you want to show them quickly the different pages so that you know?
Different pages.
When they go home, it attracts them to actually.
I will show you the different pages, inshallah.
Just
So
one-
obviously the home page has just messages from the Sheikha. Then about us is just statements about us, our aims, our objectives, and what Gift of Knowledge is about. Our funding categories, Sheikh will go through it in more detail, but it's all there with all the nitty-gritty, if you like. And there's a tab on the trustees. All of us are there, all the trustees. And there's a narrative by Sheikh Fahim on it as well. The main tab I would say
don't talk about this, please.
is that, but Sheikh will again talk about this.
No, I'm not going to talk about this.
Okay, you want to talk about it? So I'll mention briefly, please donate. And our address and our contact. And finally, all the links who are supporting Gift of Knowledge. Inshallah, I'll forward it on to Sheikh to introduce you. Apologies again for not preparing much. Sheikh.
Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Before I begin, one of the brothers that, if I don't actually thank him, I will be doing injustice to him. He's done so much work. Of course, there are other people doing a lot of work behind this scene. But in particular, Brother Kamruz is sitting here. He gave a lot of excuses for not coming at the front, so I thought maybe there are some very excuses, so I actually accepted. But alhamdulillah, he had been working day and night, actually sorting out everything.
Successfully complete the mission of seeking knowledge. We know from a hadith the Prophet ﷺ said, إِنَّمَا الْعِلْمُ بِالتَّعَلُّمِ, that indeed knowledge is acquired through learning. So this learning process that we go through, it requires you to have time, free time. You can't expect to just seek knowledge from books, here and there few hours, you've got sudden inspiration. And this requires time for you, free time, dedicated time for knowledge. That is if you want to gain the knowledge. The other thing we said was traveling to gain the knowledge, and this was actually the common practice of the scholars in the past. We know that you've got scholars from Morocco. They were young and they traveled across Europe as well as the Middle Eastern countries, and we found that people from Europe are inspired to seek knowledge, which you don't get in the Muslim countries. You don't get a 17-year-old Syrian suddenly inspired to seek knowledge. You don't get a 17-year-old Bangladeshi wanting to seek knowledge.
And reiterate what Sheikh Sina said in all her statement. The aim of GOG is to support students of knowledge in the path of seeking knowledge. The objectives, we've got 5 objectives, is to encourage people to seek beneficial knowledge, to provide equal opportunities to deprived and talented students to reach their potentials, to support students financially with limited financial means, to support women financially who are undertaking lifelong education, and last but not least, to facilitate continuous learning for seekers of knowledge beyond geographical boundaries. I'm just going to finish by reading the introduction on the website. The Gift of Knowledge aims to inspire people to seek knowledge and to preserve Islamic scholarship. In particular, Gift of Knowledge intends to inspire women to revive the rich Islamic heritage of female Islamic scholarship. It is Gift of Knowledge's intention to support students financially and morally who are proactive, confident, talented, and willing to embark upon the journey of seeking knowledge.
All the other issues of security, safety, finding a place to stay, and people to stay with. It's not easy. So, however, there are those who manage to overcome these difficulties, and they do sacrifice these difficulties I've just mentioned for the sake of knowledge. And you see young brothers and sisters is not there, and that is not having sufficient money or fund to for themselves to be able to continue their studies. One can manage saving for 6 months, and that's what we did when we first went to study. We saved for a year for 2 people, or so you can save 6 months a year, maximum 1.5 years. But to be able to save for 5 years, 6 years by yourself is it's really even more a sister to come back. Do you know how much pressing need there is for a woman to be able to know the basics? I mean, all the time, just sharing something little with you, is that I get calls all the time, and my husband doesn't like me to reject any of the calls because he said there might be a sister in need. And it's always about, what do I do about the first person who came in could now feel that it's full of people. Or if this room was completely unclean, and if it was starting to become clean, then we can feel the difference in the room. It's completely quiet, and if it was to become noisy, then you can feel. So when someone goes through the difficulties and seeking knowledge, they can actually comprehend. And I think, some of us who have been studying a little bit, I can comprehend, and we can comprehend what people have gone through, and which is why those who are studying, those who are students of knowledge, we've got together to try and see what we can do to help our brothers and sisters in their path of knowledge. And Golk, how did it start? It started, as I've said, as young as when we were young. I remember a lot of us as young people were saying we need to set up something, and funds for orphans. We need to set up funds. So all my peer groups when we were young, we were always talking about setting something. So the idea of setting something for people in need wasn't something difficult. The other thing that pushed us is when we were studying zakat, one of the things that we learned from the topic of zakat was that in the history, women were the ones who were always pioneering educational institution. So Jamiatul Azhar is a pioneer for women, and women actually gave Jamiatul Azhar the word for sisters to work. The only type of job one can get is maybe in the factories, because of some of the managers would allow them to work in hijab and so forth. So it's even harder for sisters. So what we were trying to do, and these were some of the, if you like, beginning stages of Gift of Knowledge that we felt maybe through fundraising from here that maybe possibly we could have. And we have tried to help them here and there as much as we could with our abilities, with the friend circles we've had. And we have appreciated all the funds people have given. But you can only do so much without a proper system. Without a proper system, you can only do so much.